right, Pacers fans, we are back for yet another episode of the Pacers Post Up. Ryan, it feels good to be back. I have to say a big thank you to Pacers Nation for the patience as I'm sitting here in my garage with all of my shit, for lack of a better term, behind me that was destroyed in the flood at our home. Most notably, from a podcast perspective, our recording equipment, mixer, microphones, etc., iPad that we record on, all of it ruined. But we're in the process. We've got insurance on it, and won't want to, don't want to spend too much time on that because we're excited to be back talking Pacers basketball. And the episode, Ryan, that we're going to do today is one that we actually had planned for the morning of this whole chaos that was going on at my house. But I'm glad that it waited, or that we waited till now, because it makes even more sense based on what we saw today. So we are recording this here on Wednesday afternoon, and we got some sound bites from Tyrese Haliburton for the first time in a little bit over a month. I think it's been since we last heard from Tyrese. And the quote that is going around, and if you haven't seen the video on Pacers social media, go check it out. But Tyrese said, if the season was today, I would be ready. And that has to be music to absolutely every Pacers fan's ears. We got the weird report from Chris Haynes a month or so ago that things are trending, and this puts all of that to bed. And that is what is most important here. And the episode, Ryan, that we really want to do today, sort of building on that from Tyrese, is all about what you guys, the fans, told us you're most excited about going into next season. So we did a giveaway in July, announced the winner on August 1st. BS Express, shout out to BS Express. They won the pair of Hallie ones. But we asked everybody for a bonus entry. What are you most looking forward to next year? And we got like 160 different comments, whatever. And we kind of just wanted to go through and say, okay, what are the fans looking forward to, like, coming up in this year? And we know the schedule release is coming. We've got a couple of things from opening day, Christmas Day, snubbery, which should not be any new news to anybody watching this show, because it's the same old story year in and year out. I think it is an absolute farce that the league is not going to nationally televise Tyrese's first game back, but we can get into that in the schedule release episode tomorrow. But we really wanted to get into this sort of return of Tyrese and what fans are most excited about. Ryan, we have to start with Tyrese, because as we broke down those, couple hundred responses from all of you guys who are listeners, it was very clear that the number one thing that everybody is excited about going into next year is the return of Tyrese Haliburton. Ryan, what do you make of the comments today? And now we get to kind of start really thinking about this as the kickoff of the season is only, a month and a half or so away.
Well, that's the place to start. And I think everyone's excited for opening night. And honestly, I know we'll both be in the building for that, get to enjoy Tyrese's back. And it's going to be emotional. Like, just thinking about how far we came, what Tyrese means to this city, and then bringing that all back. Like, I will 100% be shedding a tear while also being thrilled to watch him go out and play basketball. And I know there's some question marks around how's he going to look to start the season, give him some time to get, his legs back, his feel back. But the beautiful thing about Tyrese is he's a walking bucket. And what I mean by that is he's a walking bucket in terms of he gets everybody a bucket. We always get a good shot with him. He's that kind of player. And so even if he doesn't have his legs, I don't believe the feel of his game will be anything different. So the offense is just going to start humming again in a different way that we've missed over the last year and a half, basically, where we're just going to get good looks. We're going to play at that tempo that we tried to play last year, but it ultimately wasn't there. And I hope we get a fun, marquee game. We don't know, as recording this podcast, who we're going to play opening night, but getting that energy, getting back into Gainbridge Fieldhouse and having basically a season to look forward to where we're going to be back in contention. And just to watch Tyrese with the joy he plays is, I think, why it was probably the number one answer outside of just that obviously he's the franchise player. But I've gone down a few rabbit holes on some of his like iconic closeout games against the Knicks, and it's whether he's closing game 6 in Gamebridge, going off in the fourth quarter, 10 straight points, basically led the whole ending charge, or in Madison Square Garden, John with the flannel fan. Like, there's just so much memories and good times with Tyrese, and we've been waiting and building that suspension for so long now that I think everyone's just kind of on their edge of the seat to finally see him back. And good or bad game to start the season, it's what we're all waiting for. And we kind of know this guy plays with an edge, and to your point, he's ready. This is 16 months removed, and the Achilles injury, like, we have to recalibrate. These guys are coming back quicker and quicker. We've talked about Jason Tatum. We've talked about Daniel Jones. Like, these guys are back instantly now, and he's had a year and a half, essentially, when opening night will start. And so I think he's going to give us a really fun performance to start.
Yeah, I mean, the Daniel Jones stuff is nuts. That was like 7 months, full participant in training camp. And I love that Tyrese is putting that whole narrative to bed right now. Like, we're not having the conversation anymore about, what if, or is he, or shingles, or, the weight, Halliburton, as they put it on the McAfee show. That's really, we're moving on from that. And now we can start kind of dreaming of this first game back in Gainbridge Fieldhouse, Troy Pepper on the call, announcing him in the starting lineup. Like, these are the things that the fans were coming out and saying, like, these are the moments, right? That's going to be one of the hottest tickets in recent memory, frankly, outside of, obviously we had the finals and those are hot tickets, but this is if we wanted to talk about the Bucks game last year, the Miles Turner return, or even the Matherin Isaiah Jackson return with the Clippers, those were hot tickets. Those were things that people wanted to see. This is that times 1,000. Like, it is, it's a reason why I'm grateful that we have season tickets already, because you're going to pay a premium to be in that building for his first game back. And it doesn't matter what the opponent is. We could be playing the Brooklyn Nets for all I care. People are going to be wanting to get in to see that. There's also kind of on a little schedule nugget that I will go into because we got this today. We're going to get a chance to see Tyrese in Ames, Iowa in the preseason. So October 7th, we've got a Timberwolves Pacers preseason game at Tyrese's alma mater. Honest to God, Ryan, I know you used to cover part of Iowa in a previous job. I'm sitting here like, okay, how can I get to Ames on a Wednesday night in the middle of the week? Because I think that would be a heck of a lot of fun to go see him there. But this is a guy that, to me, I think the league is making, kind of I don't want to say a fatal error. The league is failing to recognize just how much star power Tyrese can have. I think his return in this lineup, one, instantly makes the Pacers contenders again, and that narrative has all but died. It's gotten completely lost amongst the Jaylen Brown trade, what's Boston doing, the New York, championship, obviously LeBron to Philly, Giannis to Miami. There's so many competing narratives that I think Tyrese is old news, right? And so the league is just totally asleep on the return. You talk about the clutch moments, the things that he's done on the biggest stage. I am so excited to see him again with the chip on the shoulder. It's not the overrated, right? Like, that has to be put to bed at this point, but it is absolutely the underappreciated narrative that continues to remain, frankly, for anybody that puts on a Pacers jersey, right? I mean, just shy of LeBron choosing to come to Indiana, which I am eternally grateful that he did not. That was the only thing that was going to get us into any of these bigger conversations. But make no mistake about it, this is something that every fan is excited about and is going to dominate the headlines as we return to play. What I don't want to get lost in that, and kind of segueing to, I think, really the second item that sort of was a theme of what fans are looking forward to. we saw Zubac for 5 games. We never saw him with Tyrese. We never saw him with Pascal Siakam. It was hit or miss in terms of was Nembhard in the lineup. I think he played a couple of games with Drew. Like this whole idea of Tyrese, Pascal, Zoo, Aaron, and Drew, like we haven't seen anything close to that level of our starting lineup and continuity. I think it is so undervalued. I saw a report from The Athletic that the Pacers had one of the top 5 worst off seasons because we didn't have a lottery pick after such a bad year. And my counter argument to that is we did have a lottery pick and we chose to trade it. I understand the Zubac trade occurred mid-season, not during the offseason. But if you're going to say, oh, they had no lottery pick, well, no, we have barely even scratched the surface of seeing what that lottery pick is going to get us in terms of a bona fide, starting center. So what do you make of just the entire Zoo narrative? Again, something that's gone totally lost in the general NBA, talk.
Well, I think ironically, it's going to be that Indiana fans are going to be loving him. For everyone who talked about Miles Turner and said they weren't a fan, we're basically getting the reverse Miles Turner. Everything they wanted him to do, whether it was rebounding, interior defense, playing big, playing strong, reading the game well, like these are Zubac's strength. And I've talked to some Pacer fans, and I just don't think they got to watch a lot of them. None of them are tuning into the West Coast games, particularly the Clippers over the last few years. And so getting to bring that in, I think we're underestimating at times how much Indiana is going to embrace him. And that's probably why, again, on the giveaway, he was the second most mentioned name of just excitement, is because he adds such a different element. Now you've got a guy who can bang with all these bigs. You're not going to be getting bullied. In fact, we might do some of that with him in the lineup and just on the offensive glass. And then also just being able to set a real solid screen. Like, as much as our team was so talented, Miles was a slip screener. I mean, he was coming out, he was popping, occasionally would roll if the guys were blitzing Tyrese or something, but that was never his game. He wanted to live, mid-range or get out beyond the three-point line, and that's not going to be Zoo. The defense is going to have to honor him going straight to the rim, and they're going to have to find a body on him. And the exciting part is the more we hear about Zoo and them, he's honored that he knows he's got to pick up his pace a little bit. He's mentioned that he's got to get in the best shape of his life, and I think we're going to see him do that. And so getting to see almost like a speedier Zubac is exactly what this fan base has been begging for years. And don't get me wrong, the Pacers Post Up has been a Miles Turner supporter podcast, not for how he left and what he did last year and all that, but just in terms of this game, and we thought he fit well. But this is a whole new wrinkle to play with, and I think fans are going to like him even more than they expect, because his showing in those 5 games wasn't anything spectacular. He was coming off an ankle injury. He admitted he wasn't in great shape. He never played with Pascal. Like, he played a half with Aaron Nesmith. Like, didn't get any real run with the guys that he's going to play majority of his minutes worth. And so they're going to get a full offseason, a full training camp. He's going to come in great shape, and he is going to just unlock so much for us. And it kind of pairs well to finish what I'm going on with Zubac is the Haliburton-Zubac combo, in terms of we saw what Miles Turner was before Tyrese and after Tyrese. Not great. 12 points, 9 points, 5 rebounds, 6 rebounds. Like, Zoo is a 15 and 10 guy with a ton of different players around him. And I know he had some talented playmakers, James Harden being one of them, but don't compare James Harden's playmaking to Miles Turner or to Tyrese Haliburton's. They are totally different. Tyrese is playing fast. Tyrese is playing in the offense. He's looking for the best shot. James Harden is iso ball, give me one pick and roll, or I might hit you with the lob here. I might pull back from 3. Like, it's a very limited game. And so pairing that with Tyrese, and then the last thing I'll mention that I think fans will be excited about is Zubac can read the game quick. He averaged close to 2.5 assists. He has great hands, so you can throw it in the low post, and even if he gets doubled or crashed or there's a big on him, he makes quick reads. Guys are going to cut around him. We know Nesmith's a talented cutter. We know Pascal is a talented cutter. Like, these are going to be a lot of different things that I think in the first 5 games, people are going to be the headline will come out of, did we underestimate, Zubac in the trade? That's going to be the media if we get talked about in the national media. But that's what people act like is, did we overlook this? And the simple answer is, yeah, of course you overlooked it. The guy was a near all-star, near all-NBA talent, all defensive team, and you guys are blasting us for a trade that gave us an opportunity to have both the lottery pick and not. And so we have defended that trade wholeheartedly, and I think fans will come to see it here soon.
There's no question about it. You do that trade 10 out of 10 times with the vantage point of hindsight, right? You have to make that trade. Drafting 5th overall gets you nothing. Keaton Wagler or any of those drafted shortly thereafter mean nothing to a team that is clearly all in for a championship in these next couple of years. So it was a home run trade. It could have been a grand slam, I suppose, had you gotten that top. We've beaten that drum to death. A couple of things stand out that you said. The IQ, and I know that is an umbrella term that when you throw it out in a conversation with a fan or somebody that's watching Pacers basketball, it's like, okay, what does that really mean? I'll try to characterize it like feel for the game. Just because he has a couple assists, I mean, it's more so when you're running that pick and roll, when he's operating in the middle of the floor and they throw two at him or they flash two or whatever, he has the ability to look around and say, okay, am I going to the corner? Is there a cutter? Do I need to get it out? Do I have the small on me who I can punish? Like he is, and that's, you talk about Miles Turner, that was a position he never thrived in, right? Turner would get the small on him and it was still a mismatch, not in our favor, right? Yeah. Because he had no post game and honestly always looked a little sped up when he had the ball in those situations. That is Miles. Zubac is the complete opposite. Obviously comes from a European background. They play a little bit more of this, everybody is involved in moving the ball kind of systems. And you see that when he's playing in the offseason like he did this summer with Croatia for those FIBA World Cup qualifiers. So, yeah, I think it's a feel for the game that we haven't had in a center, frankly, since a guy like Domas. And I don't know if he's on that level necessarily, but he's more Domas than he is Miles, right? And so that's what gets me very excited. Obviously, as I'm reading through all these comments, everybody's talking about pick and roll, right? You mentioned the pick and pop, the slip screen, stuff like that. This is a true pick and roll threat, somebody that can be a lob threat. He's not, DeAndre Ayton in the mid, 2010s, but he is, DeAndre Jordan, not DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton's asleep somewhere. DeAndre Jordan, he's not that, but he is, he is a guy that can finish the lob if need be, but also we've seen that push shot, something that he's, he can finish with both hands. So I think Tyrese having a legitimate pick and roll partner is going to be fun to see how Rick Carlisle and, this coaching staff draws up plays to take advantage of two strong pick and roll, players. And then obviously the screen setting, that was the other thing. I can't tell you how many comments. I can't wait to see the Zubac bone-crushing screen, right? Like that's the type of stuff that, is just going to create space in different ways. Miles Turner was a floor spacer because he stretched. Zubac is going to space for our offense because he creates it by the bone-crushing screen, allowing an Aaron Nesmith or a Pascal or even a Tyrese, getting downhill or what have you. So those are things that I just think, we're underselling what it means to have a guy that was almost, to your point, all NBA, 2 or 3 votes or 2 or 3 players outside of that top 15 the year that he made all defense. And I'll say this too. I've said this going way back, months back on this show. Rick Carlisle, in the year before, the offseason before they won the title in Dallas, their big acquisition to that championship team was Tyson Chandler that offseason. Defensive anchor, somebody that can come in, played above the rim. This to me is a very similar type of acquisition. This is a defensive anchor, somebody that you're going to say, you know what, rim defense, field goal percentage at the rim. This guy's been at the top of the league. Physical low post presence, rebounding, defense, energy, motor, all those things. And I'm excited, Ryan, because I'll tease this now. We've got an episode coming here as soon as we get our actual not this garage nonsense, our actual setup back under our feet. we're going to do a little bit of a Zubats preview episode. We're going to have a guest join us to kind of deep dive on some of that, which you certainly want to tune into. We got to move forward. Unless you got anything else on Zoo
No.
at this point, I think kind of the next theme, and we don't have to spend a ton of time on this, but fans were very clear to say we got to be healthy. They are looking forward to a full strength Pacers squad. And aside from Johnny Furphy, who is in repair right now on the ACL front, what do you make of that? How important is that to our aspirations for this coming season?
Well, when we're healthy, we don't lose playoff series. And I think
Yep.
everybody talks about that, but it's the truth. And the good news, I think, with this team, and you look around, and obviously for those who are superstitious or maybe just a little stitious, you can knock on wood here, but these guys are a pretty healthy team. Neesmith is a workhorse. Nemhard is a workhorse. Siakam's been a workhorse. Bring in Zoo. Zoo doesn't miss a lot of games. Like, these guys play and play a lot. I mean, Pascal last year played nearly up to 70 games, and we were basically resting him towards the end of the season. Like, he maybe missed one or two to real injury. And, the one is Tyrese. And I think we know this team is going to balance his minutes out. I don't expect a lot of back-to-backs from him. I don't expect a lot of high 30-minute marks from him. Even into an overtime game, I wouldn't be surprised, depending on how many minutes he has, at least early on the season, we might pull him. So I think we have load managed, in quotes. I don't love that term, but the team well through last year into this year. And even going to the bench, you look at a guy like Obi. He had his weird kind of fluke injury last year, but largely he played 82 games the year before. TJ McConnell, we expected a huge ramp up in minutes, only played about 16 or 17 minutes a game last year, despite our team needing a little bit of point guard help. I think that was by design to keep him more fresh for this year. And Kelly Oubre's got pretty good health. And once we get Furphy, hopefully in that late December, early January timeline in the lineup, we'll need it. And there's no secret that to go all the way in the finals, you need health. I mean, I think one of the biggest reasons that people don't talk about in last year in the Western Conference Finals was J-Dub being out. Like, people are like, well, the Spurs beat the Thunder, so this. And I was like, well, they did, but they didn't beat the top version of the Thunder. Like, if J-Dub's an all-NBA player, probably the second best player on that team, you could argue Chet, but definitely not Chet in that series. I mean, so I think that's one we're all kind of just like anxious to see it. But I think there's a lot of reason to think we are going to have one of the healthiest seasons we've seen. And if you look at the Tyrese front, yes, there's always that, okay, he tore his Achilles, he's going to favor other weight, all that, but it's 16 months removed. And if you watch that East Bay, dunk, not only was that impressive, but he's gotten bigger. He's put on some muscle. He's filled out a little bit more. I think he's taking care of his body a little bit better, even with the shingles news that still lingers here and there. I think he's knows what it takes even more now than he did before to play 100+ games in a season, which is our goal. And so fans should be highly optimistic that this team is going to have a real run at staying really healthy and looking really good.
Right. It's imperative that we stay healthy, right? And for all the reasons you talk about, if you look at deep postseason runs, it's the healthiest teams that are able to sustain, right? You're going to have guys get injured. You need the depth. You need guys like, I'll just say it, the signing of Kelly Oubre, a Johnny Furphy, a Jarris Walker, a Ben Shepherd, all these guys that are just, backup wings, essentially. They matter. It's why these little moves around the fringes matter. And it's why, frankly, you mentioned OKC this year, but if you look at the Knicks in years past under Tom Thibodeau, that was always the knock. They had played so many minutes in the regular season. Their bench was so short. Think about Joel Embiid in Philadelphia this last year. They had a 6-man rotation. And yeah, they got by Boston in the first round, but it's no wonder they ran out of gas against the Knicks, right? And so I think the fans are right to call out health. It is something that if you lose one or two of your really key guys, it just becomes so hard. Now, I say this, I think the Pacers are as well constructed as just about any team in the league to overcome something like that because of the depth and some of these guys that, again, the few names that I mentioned are guys that if you ask non-Pacers NBA fans, they're going to be like, Ben Shepherd. I mean, who cares? But this is a guy that started in the Eastern Conference Finals in his rookie year, and he's played solid playoff minutes. He doesn't wow you, not a sexy player, but has been there, right? And so that's why I just think, yeah, if this team stays healthy, watch out, because that is something that is going to carry us, particularly from a depth perspective, as we go forward. And that's really, as we kind of look, the final two are sort of intertwined here in terms of themes from the fans' expectations and what they're most excited about. But I'll go here before we kind of wrap things up. The revenge tour. That was a theme that was very consistent. And I think a lot of the tweets that I got and comments that I got were, revenge tour, the Knicks, right? We didn't have a chance to kind of, thwart their finals run. Or LeBron, we finally are going to get another swing at him in the Eastern Conference. Even some things around Boston, Giannis in Miami. Like, there's history both, on the Miami front with the LeBron, D Wade, Chris Bosh era going back to the mid 2010s, Paul George, Roy Hibbert, all that. But there's also history more recently with Giannis. And so you kind of throw all that into the Miami Heat bucket. And then even, really the last couple of years, and I had one fan comment this, the Pistons, right? So much history with Detroit, and Detroit hasn't been good. We've kind of had their number as of late, but they were the top seed in the conference last year. You even go back to the Cavs. There's you can just look all across the Eastern Conference. Really, that's not even talking about OKC in a potential finals rematch, which would be incredible if it came to that. But I guess if you had to rank kind of your top three, what is that from a revenge tour perspective for this upcoming season?
Yeah, the easy one. Yeah, the easy one is the Knicks, and there's so much history, and we've well documented. Beat them 2 years in a row. The year they win the finals is the one we don't get a crack at. So no need. I think every fan is anticipating going back to the Garden and getting a crack to show them that we're back, and then we still have their number. I think going to OKC is going to be one of the marquee games just to watch kind of the emotion of Tyrese, because we know that he didn't travel to Oklahoma City this year during the regular season. I think it was the only building he didn't end up going to, if I'm not mistaken. And so he commented that he was waiting so that he could go back and actually play in that building. So I think there'll be some emotion there. I think the dark horses that you kind of outlined too, I love the Pistons. The Heat one's probably a little bit even more for me resonant. I just don't like the Heat, never really have. The ball gate with Giannis, beating Giannis twice in the playoffs. I know one year he wasn't out there, but taking out the Bucks and really ending his career in Milwaukee was us. I know last year was really the final nail in the coffin, but we had eliminated him twice from the playoffs, basically removed Dame from the equation, and that team was obviously terrible last year. So I think those are the games that I look forward to most. And then, like you said, getting a crack at LeBron is always fun. I think defensively we'll be able to exploit them. That'll probably be the new like Atlanta Hawks matchup with us of years past, where it's like 147 to 146, high flying, high paced games. So there is so much to like, and especially in a deep Eastern Conference and a deep division. I mean, our whole division outside of Milwaukee is going for it, and it's going to talk themselves in to at least being an Eastern Conference, finals contender, if not a finals contender, with who we have around us, maybe outside the Bulls. That's probably giving the Bulls a little bit too much credit, but still, they've got a new team, and so I think there's a lot to look forward to. And then you were alluding to kind of the games, out in Iowa. We've got the NBA Cup games. One will be here, but our NBA Cup division is the wildest division in the Cups. I mean, it's 5 straight playoff teams. So there's going to be a lot of games. Which one, if you could look at a game right now, which one would be the one you are most looking forward to?
It has to be the Knicks.
Yeah.
Because listen, if this was prime LeBron back, 10 years ago, fine, right? I mean, my hatred was at an all-time high, in those Pacers Heat series, but the Knicks have eclipsed it for me. The fact that we're not, we were not able to get a crack at them last year, that's always going to sit in a pretty tough place for me from a fan perspective, just given how much we have had their number over these last couple of years. And that rivalry is so fresh. I just think that's the game that I will look forward to the most. And if I was, had the pick of the litter, I would draw up a Knicks Pacers playoff series. I don't care what round. Of course, Eastern Conference Finals, that makes it all the more dramatic if that is the stage you get to play on. But it's probably Knicks, LeBron, and then some combination of Miami, Detroit, Boston. I mean, there's storylines that you could pick up with all of them. PG's back in Boston. I know that that's so old for Pacers fans at this point, but I don't have any love for PG. I mean, the way he exited and the shenanigans that, frankly, you saw this. He was the grass is greener before the Miles Turner grass is greener. Now, Miles Turner might be kind of a secret traitor who's destroyed the Bucks from within based on how he's played. We've been watching Traitors, binge watching that show for those that know what I'm talking about. But it's just, to me, there's plenty of storylines. None of them come close to the New York one, in my mind. The rich history, Hicks versus Knicks, the tie-in to Reggie Miller from all those years ago, the fact that we've really owned them for the last 25 years in the playoffs, spanning Reggie Miller era, the mid-2000s when Carmelo and Amari Stoudemire, like, they thought they had something there, and that was like the Lance Stevenson, Iman Shumpert deal. We knock them out in 6, and then obviously the last couple of years, we know what's happened there, historic Game 7, and then obviously finishing off in 6 games, 2 years ago. And that really leads us to our final thread here from just fan reaction. It's finals. That is the expectation. Everybody talked about another finals run, going after the chip, Larry O'Brien getting our banner, and everything that we have done as an organization from a roster standpoint says that is exactly what we are thinking from the top of the organization, ownership. Now, I say that. We'll see it when it comes to luxury tax and first apron and all that. Herb's got to put his money where his mouth is, and we'll see how that all, ultimately plays out. But so far, everything that we're seeing from the Zubac trade, kind of making that move, taking the risk around the pick, making a very, savvy draft day move to get off of Cam Jones so you can go sign a guy in Kelly Oubre, who, by the way, is a starter on so many different teams, right? Like, he can start in this league and has for many years, but is going to fill a role. He's taking a little bit of a discount, I think, to be a part of something. And now we're right back, Ryan, to the narrative of off the radar, no respect. We've said it a number of times on this show. FanDuel had us at 8th in terms of the best odds in the Eastern Conference to win the East. We have now moved to 9th. The Orlando Magic have jumped us. So we're now 9th, basically out of the playoff picture from a, betting line perspective at plus 1,600 on FanDuel. It's asinine. And I think this fan base is right to say it's finals or bust, baby. Like, that is where we should be. Every fan should be picking right up from where we were at when Tyrese went down in Game 7, because that was a championship winning team. I think every fan believes we were going to win that game. Tyrese sure as hell believes we were going to win that game. And there are a lot of people that are still on this team from inside that locker room. Frankly, the majority of our core guys, minus Miles Turner and Benedict Mathurin, who I think we've upgraded in both Zubac and Kelly Oubre. Not because I think Kelly's, a better player than Mathurin. We can argue all this, that, and the other. He's fits better. What we need way better than Benedict Mathurin does. And so, Ryan, I'll let you react to the fans saying finals or bust, but I'm all in on that.
Brad, we are a better team than we were before. You talked about the additions. Zubac is better than Miles Turner, and Kelly Oubre is better than Mathurin. I have no problem saying that. We have watched enough Mathurin to know, and they're both probably better fits on this roster. And so if you look at it from that perspective, the caveat obviously is getting Tyrese Haliburton back to his all-NBA elite form. And he's going to have plenty of time to get that mojo back. And so if we see that version of Tyrese, we're already a better team. We have more chemistry even built out with these guys. Andrew Nembhard took a massive leap last year. We saw Obi Toppin look great even at the end of the season, added a little bit more playmaking and passing to his game. Neesmith added a little bit more attacking to the rim. He's got to do a little bit more control, but he worked through some of those growing pains. Even Jarris Walker's taken steps. And Johnny Furphy, who knows? We could be talking about how Johnny Furphy is a huge part of this rotation, especially in spots if you're going to get a matchup like Toronto or Orlando, who have a lot of size coming off the bench, a lot of wing depth. These are guys who can step in. And so if you're a Pacers fan, yes, it's hard to be a true, like, this is it or bust. The season's a disappointment if not. But going in, there is no reason not to be optimistic that this group has a finals run in them. We check almost all the boxes when you look down the line. We have wing defenders now more than we did before. We have better rebounding. We haven't given up a lot on the shooting aspect, in my opinion. I still think the pace spacing is going to be just as good, if not better, with the way Zubac spaces the floor in different ways. And so we should be thinking that every day of the week. This should be, we're going in. We know who the high-level competition guys are. We know we can beat New York. We know Boston was kind of the one team you're a little nervous about, and they've gotten worse. Like, there's no question that they've taken a downgrade. Say what you will about how you feel about Jaylen Brown and all that, but losing your finals MVP guy is a massive loss, and Paul George might not even be healthy for this season. So we know that. The Sixers obviously are the team that's kind of like, well, if it all clicks, does it work? But their bench is bad. Their defense is bad. Embiid's health is, he's playing 30 games a year. Could he play 7, or 4 rounds in playoffs? We've never seen it. So I'd be shocked to see it at this point in his career, even though those pictures of him losing weight, quote unquote, I don't know if you look at his knees, they look like they're shattered, but that's another story for another day. So I think Pacer fans are on the right mindset. And the good news to me is the East is deeper, but outside of the Sixers, which we got to see how that clunkiness works, I don't think we've crazy, it hasn't been 8 All-Stars on one team, all these changes. It's basically just the Knicks ran through the East last year, and that was because we weren't there. I don't think the Pistons have made a huge upgrade. I still like us there. I don't think Cleveland's made a huge upgrade. In fact, you'd argue they've taken a step back. And so there's so many reasons to be optimistic. And this team has a NBA championship coach, NBA championship duo between Tyrese and Pascal, and then just players who fit the role, and still probably the second best, if not the best depth in the league.
I love being slept on. It's always been a situation where this team gets very little respect in the national conversation. I understand it's small market, whatever, but it is the position that I think so many of the guys inside this locker room thrive on. You think about Tyrese Haliburton's story, 3-star. He's mentioned that, right? Not really highly recruited out of high school, falls a little bit in the draft from where he thought he should be, traded out of Sacramento. That was a huge, turning point in his career that was like, oh man, that's how you feel about me. Then you go all the way down the line. I mean, Andrew Nembhard, a guy that's taken in the second round, not highly, thought of coming out of college. Obviously, Aaron Neesmith, the paperclip, the throw-in the Malcolm Brogdon trade. Pascal Siakam picks up a basketball later in life, comes through NBA Africa, plays in the G League, and obviously, has made a hell of a career for himself. Zubac, you could even say that coming out of Croatia, a little bit of a different story. TJ McConnell, Obi Toppin, the lottery pick, traded for 2, second round picks. I mean, you just go on and on and on with these guys. They all play with a chip. They all feel like they have something to prove. And I promise you, they all remember just how close they were in 2024 or 5 or whatever the hell it was. And that doesn't just go away. That is fueling them. And that is what, Ryan, separates them from so many other teams on this list, right? Even, Boston has championship experience, but they've already won it. Detroit hasn't been there. Cleveland, those guys haven't even come close. Orlando, who jumps us on this list, please, I don't even want to hear about it. You talk about Embiid, you got to win 16 games to win a title. Good luck with that. I just, as you start to really, surface level, fine. I get it. Dissect some of these teams and really tell me how they're going to get it done. I just don't see it. And so I think you're spot on in that regard. And I got to say, big shout out to all of our fans who did comment, who participated in the giveaway. A couple other things that I just want to read off here. We got so many comments, Ryan, about taking my son to his first game, taking my dad to a game, haven't been in 10 years. They're in poor health, things like that. It's why we love basketball. When people say, oh, it's just a game, it doesn't matter. No, I am a firm believer that this absolutely matters. Sports transcends so much other bullshit in the world. It brings people together. It brings families together. It is so important. And so I just think it's awesome that we've got a bunch of fans saying, hey, I can't wait to take my kid. I can't wait to go with my dad and relive some of these memories. And it is always better when it's winning basketball, when you're going to see the Haliburton top and alley-oop, not the 10-day contract to Garrison Matthews, Jeremiah Robinson Earl, Cody Martin, trifecta. Nothing against those guys. That was brutal last year. I cannot wait for what this is going to be this year. So, Ryan, it's our first episode back. We've gone longer than we anticipated to go, which is, par for the course here on the Pacers Post Up. Anything else before we wrap this one up from your end?
No, this was fun.
Yeah, listen, Pacers fans, appreciate you guys listening. Thank you so much for engaging with our giveaway. We've got another giveaway on the horizon. So for those fans that we'll have this on our Twitter page here soon, we're going to give away a pair of the tickets to the charity softball game that Tyrese Haliburton is bringing back. We've got 2 tickets, so we'll get a post out here in the next couple of days. Be sure to check that out in terms of how to enter. We're going to have an episode out, record it tomorrow with the schedule release. Like I said, plenty of exciting things on the horizon. Just waiting on insurance to approve some of the claims so we can get our studio set up back. But we'll be rocking and rolling here by the time the season starts. So, Pacers fans, appreciate you guys listening. As always,